join me. Let's have a seat and make ourselves comfortable. It's been a long day. It's 5 o'clock. I wish I had a drink to offer you, but I encourage you to think of the next 20 minutes as our own cocktail party.
Okay.
So,
Well,
Prost.
cheers to that then.
Okay,
Cheers.
Prost.
Cheers.
So, Ola, Jochen, you guys don't really need an introduction, but I'll give you one just for politeness' sake very quickly. You're the CEO of Mercedes-Benz, leading luxury car maker. You're driving us into a sustainable and digital future. Jochen, you're the CEO of Infineon Technologies, the world's #1 in automotive semiconductors. Welcome to both of you. I'd like to start by asking you personally, and remember, give your dinner party answer, what does mobility mean to you?
Well, I think that's simple. It's freedom.
Freedom.
I can choose to go wherever I want, whenever I want. That was the gift of the founding fathers of our company.
I love the Founding Fathers reference. As an American, the freedom answer really resonates. Jochen?
I agree 100%, but I would like to add, I would like to enjoy this freedom without regrets, meaning 0 emission and 0 fatal accidents.
All right, I like that. That's very ambitious, and it's a positive goal. We've been talking all day, all week, about the change in mobility. In your view, how fundamental is this shift, and what are the key drivers to change? Maybe we start with you, Ola.
I think it's nothing less than actually reinventing the original invention. There hasn't been a change this big, a transformation this big in the auto industry, really since the invention of the first car. 2 things are driving it. It's the clear quest to go 0 emission. We got to do this. Everybody's working on it. But equally, and this is where our partnership is maybe even more important, next to e-drive trains, is we got a compute and digital revolution going on in the cars. It's just unbelievable the level of technology we're able to put in now, even compared to 10 years. So those 2 technical revolutions, they're driving the transformation of the auto industry.
And would you agree with that assessment? This is as fundamental as the first car. We're going basically from horse to car all over again. Does that ring true to your experience?
I would like to take the end consumer perspective. And for me, this decarbonization and digitalization is ultimately all about that 0 emissions finally happen. I think we still have lots of challenges in front of us, but I've no doubts that we will overcome them. There's time to market, there's cost, there's efficiency, but I think the electric motor is set. And the other interesting is, based on the digitalization, me as a final user, I become a passenger in the car. And that opens up a complete new space of what I would like to have in the car. It's the different user experience, it's different services, and all of them are based on semiconductors ultimately, right? We always pledge, and I hope you don't disagree, that the vast majority, we tend to dare to say 80 to 90% of innovation in the automotive industry is based on semiconductors, of course, with lots of software. This, especially in the digital arena, is driving a lot of momentum, and decarbonization and digitalization are also intertwined, right? It's not 2 independent trends. There's no decarbonization without digitalization, if you think about intelligent charging and then so on and so forth. And on the one hand, we have traditional values we bring to the automotive industry, like quality, reliability, safety, security. But now we have a very different environment where we can contribute with a lot of innovations to make the final experience for his customers and myself really a unique one.
Okay. I want to shift gears for a second and talk a little bit about the chip shortage in automotive. Is this a topic of the past?
I would say it's under control.
Okay.
But I would like to add a serious comment. We should learn out of what we have experienced, right? We have experienced a severe allocation, which harmed the whole industry quite a bit. And we should learn that inventories are an asset. The chip industry and the automotive industry depend on each other, but the production cycle of chips still just doesn't fit to just in time. And therefore, we need inventories, and we should not forget them when the times of allocation are over. Also, we are making major commitments as in Infineon. You may have seen in the news, 5 billion in Dresden for power and analog mixed signal, 5 billion for silicon carbide in Malaysia, and the TSMC joint venture in Dresden. So we are doing everything to avoid the next allocation, but honestly, in a world where certain end markets like e-mobility, but also renewables are driven by the regulator, there is a certain likelihood that these markets get again tight. And I welcome every tier one OEM to make long-term commitments because these are, of course, then beneficial in times of another allocation. So I can't exclude it, even though we are doing everything and making major commitments.
So you're doing all you can, you're making major commitments. How are your feelings?
Well, if you take a step back now and look at how this situation evolved, I think that when we had the first conversations about this, that was, I think, early on when COVID hit us,
yep.
And where some of those allocations happened that you referred to. So in the beginning, I think we superficially thought, okay, this is a whiplash effect from COVID, maybe Q2 in 2020. But what we saw beneath that is, I think we as an industry had probably been sleepwalking into a structural problem. Because the amount of chips that you have per vehicle or individual semiconductors takes a sophisticated vehicle like the Mercedes S-Class. Individual semiconductors, we're talking thousands, okay. And chips, we're talking hundreds. Now, that's what you expect from an S-Class that literally have every function ever invented in it. But the content of functionality per vehicle has been growing much faster than maybe the total vehicle growth as such. So we were more or less booking out the capacity that was there, especially in the modern nodes. And that structural issue, and you said it now, there are still some pitfalls there. That structural issue, it has taken time for us, together with the chip companies, with investments on your side, obviously, to deal with that. So the underlying structural issue, I think, is not ultimately solved. And I can only underline what Jochen said. We have taken a new approach now with long-term contracts, with what we call deep sourcing. So,
explain that to me.
Well, deep sourcing, in the past, let's say you bought some kind of an ECU, for the lack of a better word, a small computer for some function in the car.
Okay.
You work with a competent tier one supplier. You tell that tier one supplier, okay, I'm going to build this model line. It's going to go for X years, and we need Y hundreds of thousands of ECUs. And you didn't really think about, when that ends up on his desk, what chip is in there, who has created commitments between the tier one and the tier two and maybe the tier three. That was not always transparent to us. In some cases it was, but in most cases it wasn't. So deep sourcing means to us now, we go all the way to the source. We sit and discuss with companies like Infineon, and we actually strike the agreements now with companies like Infineon, together with the other partners that we have in the value chain. So we have much better transparency, and we have, I think, longer-term planning stability, more than we used to have before. So we will change some behaviors next to the investments and all the other things that need to happen to make sure that we don't sleepwalk into this problem again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds good. Let me ask this maybe from a different perspective. Will there still be a need for small chips when cars are going to have powerful central processors in the future?
Well, I'll start with this one. Don't worry. Here's another thing that everybody talks about. What nanometer are we now? Double digit, then single digit, then 2 nanometers, or even we have to go into Ångström to start measuring what happens next, and so on and so forth. It is very true that for cars, you need some sophisticated, super high performance computers where you have the latest and greatest chip technology in them. But the vast majority of chips in cars are not those. Those are the ones that are maybe in higher nanometers, more of the modern nodes. So we will need for years, or I would say decades, everything of everything. So the drive towards high computing chips, yes, but we definitely need all the other chips as well, because if you have a simple function, open and close the door, you don't take a sledgehammer to solve a small problem like that. Then you get something that is fit for purpose, that is robust, that is cost effective. So we will need all kinds of chips going forward.
Yeah, and I would like to add, or start maybe with a picture. A car is, our world is analog, right? And the car needs to move in an analog world. So even if it has a digital core, which are the 2-3 central processors, there is a need for lots of sensors, smart actuators, and controllers. And there are plenty of those. So in a car, let's say a battery electric car, if we now talk about $1,000, we will talk in 5 years $1,500. And these are hundreds of different types of chips. So, of course, there's a lot of talking about the central processor, but all of them are required. And I would also like to add that the innovation is not only coming from the central processors, but for Ola to provide the latest or the best efficiency in the drivetrain, power semiconductors are required, where the nanometers don't play a role at all. It's about materials, it's about silicon carbide, it's about gallium nitride, which is a next innovation to come for onboard charger. So the notion that these small chips are, you can buy them soon maybe in China, I think will not work, as it is a huge portfolio which we command, and we are committed to deliver this in time, in volume, at competitive and in quality. And again, lots of innovation and plenty of very different semiconductor required to build a car. And by the way, again, also other systems like renewable energy systems, machines, everything. So here we are, and we are happy to serve the automotive industry.
To maybe just pick up on one thing he said, in an EV, the battery is the most expensive individual system. So efficiency becomes the new currency that allows you either to get more range or maybe make the battery smaller for the same range to optimize cost and ultimately price for the customer. So what Jochen just said is, we go down to the very lowest level and look at the wattage. You know, how much power do you actually need to solve a certain task? So to have the right fit for purpose chip with the lowest possible wattage, but still being able to do the task. And if you collect all those wattages together, those are energy users. And we're so much more careful about the energy usage. Maybe in the combustion era, not that we didn't care about it, we've always cared about it, but you had, at least for heating, you had excess energy anyway through the combustion process. You don't have that in an electric car. You have to use energy out of the battery to heat the vehicle. So every wattage counts. And that is why in all these different categories, including technologies to make the drivetrain as such more efficient, with SiC and gallium nitride and so on, everything counts there.
And even beyond that, if you think about an automated car, you want to ensure the functional safety, and you need fail operational power distribution. So I would say in plenty of cars today, you still have standard fuses, standard relays, and we will conquer those sockets, especially with Mercedes, of course, as a first target. But So the share of the bill of material for semiconductors will grow very significantly in the auto space.
So we are still going to need small chips, is my takeaway from that.
You got it. That was a very long answer.
Yes.
To just say yes.
Okay, I love a long answer. That's what we're here for. Let's talk a little bit about AI. We've been talking about AI on this stage all day and also part of yesterday. What is the potential of AI in the R&D process of your respective companies?
Maybe I take it now first.
Okay.
And my first answer is it first consumes a lot of semiconductors. And again, yes, the GPUs are the core of it, but these GPUs need to be powered. So power semiconductors are essential to get these chips up and running because one GPU typically or easily can consume up to 1 kilowatt, one single chip. And you need to get it into the chip and out of it. So power semiconductors are there essential as well. Also in automotive, we are offering on our microcontrollers tailored solutions to bring AI, to bring neural networks into the microcontroller. So for us, it's like decarbonization and digitalization. It's a huge opportunity on the market side, but as well on the user side. And to answer your question, absolutely we are exploring many paths to utilize AI and lately, of course, generative AI in software development, in hardware development, in let's say, G&A functions. So huge potential on both ends for us, driven by semiconductors.
Sounds like a lot of opportunity for Infineon. Yes. How is Mercedes thinking about it?
To expand on that, I agree with everything you said. AI is like a new tool in the toolbox for the engineers, but it's so much more than that. Using AI to fasten the development process or be more precise, use data to get to solutions quicker, or understand technical problems, understand quality problems, understand things that happen in manufacturing with predictive maintenance and so on. We have been doing that for years, and it's like this toolbox is just getting bigger and bigger. In the last year and a half or so, everybody's talking about Gen AI. So what's that now all about, and how does that fit into this picture for a car? Here I see another world of opportunity open up. Yes, we did very quickly for our cars in the US. We integrated via our flexible cloud solution, ChatGPT, into our cars.
That's cool.
Just to show that it can be done. So if you drive, one of our electric vehicles, for instance, you're a beta tester of ChatGPT, so you can have this even more fluent conversation with the car and more or less ask anything. But if you start thinking further, where's that going to end? I don't know if there are any Iron Man fans here in the crowd, but if you watch the Iron Man movies, Stark, he has like an alter ego, a computer AI alter ego called Jarvis. So when he doesn't know what to do, he can always ask Jarvis, and Jarvis knows everything. It's like a super intelligence that is available to you at all times. Well, think about that in a car. You're going to have Jarvis in your car. So when you start doing things, that Gen AI layer is going to watch what you're doing, understand the context, and help you or suggest to you what to do next. And if you want to know anything, you're going to ask that layer, that avatar in your car, for something. So it could really be anything. And think about that in your smartphone world, what's happening here. We're all going to have Jarvis in the future. That is going to be unbelievably powerful. And sounds a little bit like science fiction, but if you ask me, that is around the corner. Not like Monday morning, but in the next few years, this is going to come.
Can I poll the audience quickly? How many of you would be excited to have a Jarvis in your car? Okay, not every hand went up. What would you say to people who are like, I don't know, that seems creepy?
Well, Mercedes is Mercedes for a reason. We have also in our cars, and we implemented that a few years ago, silent mode. If you're a silent mode, we'll tone down all the digital stuff. We'll tone down the overkill of information, and we'll just keep the bare minimum, and of course what is legally required to drive a vehicle. You can also be offline, off the grid, so that the cloud doesn't know where you are and all those different things. So for those of you who want to live a quiet life, don't worry, we got your back with Mercedes. But think about it. Do you do that on your smartphone? Do you have airplane mode 100% of the time? No, you don't. I have it at night when I sleep. I think the vast majority of customers are going to want to have this butler at their service.
When you put it like that, a butler sounds pretty good. As you say, Mercedes is Mercedes for a reason, so there's something for everyone. I want to talk a little bit about Dresden. No offense to Munich, which is a wonderful city here. TSMC and partners, including Infineon, have decided to invest in Dresden. How does this affect the automotive industry?
Yeah, it's on the one hand part of making automotive supply chains more resilient by establishing capacities in Europe, in Dresden, which are very relevant, not only for the automotive industry, but for many industrial value chains in Europe, which are very critical. And we have seen the effects if we cannot deliver chips. So there is this resilience part, but from a semiconductor perspective, there's an additional angle to this. TSMC is the world's largest foundry, as I guess we all know, and getting them over to Dresden is a significant step for the semiconductor ecosystem. And I mean, the automotive industry in Germany was so successful also because there's a very, very strong ecosystem in this country for automotive. And I think it's a significant step to build up a very powerful ecosystem in this region for semiconductors, ranging from research all the way, of course, also the interfaces to our major customers and major value chains. So for me, very, very important. And I know there's a debate about the circumstances, but I think long term it's going to be a very good investment for the country.
As a customer, as ultimately a customer of this, I think it is an incredibly important decision. On the one hand, TSMC and the conglomerate around that decision, also Intel's decision. I think next to an ecosystem that we actually already have in Germany, in the long term, this is going to make this ecosystem so much bigger. It has to, of course, be seen in the context of a bigger semiconductor world. It's not about making ourselves self-sufficient of semiconductors. That's completely unrealistic. But it's not about that. It's about having a chip in the game and making sure that you build that industry and the know-how around that industry. So for a customer, and of course we work very closely with the technical definition of what the future is going to look like, it's an incredibly important step. Let me also say this, because I read sometimes in the media the debate about how much taxpayers' money should you spend on creating a level playing field, because don't think for a second that that money is not spent in Asia or in the United States. They spend even more money on this to incentivize companies to come. So I think it was a total of 15 billion. It's a very big number, but I would very strongly applaud the strategic foresight and the strategic thinking of the German government on this. Because even though those 15 billion sounds like a big number, I'm 100% sure that that investment is going to come back many times over. So as a customer, when I read about it, I think I wrote and congratulated you to that particular decision. This is good news for Germany.
Sounds like it's 2 thumbs up for Dresden from each of you. I'm conscious that we're coming to the end of our cocktail party. I'd like to close by asking each of you to paint me a picture. The year is 2035. How has my commute changed?
I would like to drive a car with 0 emissions from the whole chain. So from generation, and it shall be autonomous when I want it. I would like to have the button Ola was talking about, because sometimes I would like to drive, but I'm happy to be driven and use the car as a place where I can do lots of creative thinking and not watch the traffic.
Sounds good to me. Ola?
So zero emission, autonomous, ultimate safety, intelligent, all of those things. I think we're going to have that before 2035. What I've learned from my 30 years in the auto industry is never underestimate the ingenuity and creativity of the engineers. 2035 is so far away, I'm sure they're going to come up with something that's going to blow us away, but I don't know what it is yet.
Well, I, for one, cannot wait to be blown away. This conversation has been a real treat. Thank you to both of you, Jochen Hannebeck and Ola Källenius. It was a pleasure. A big round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
That concludes it for us here on the main stage. I hope you will join us tomorrow. We are kicking off a whole nother day. We have a great program for you, and I hope to see you then at 10 o'clock. Bye.